Okay, so let's talk about those tiny little marks on the page that can add major points to your ACT score. Mastering a few key punctuation rules isn't just about sounding smart in an essay. It's about having a secret weapon on test day. And today, I'm going to arm you with it. So you think punctuation is just some boring grammar rule for English class? Not on the ACT. On this test, it's all about points. These questions are basically a game, and if you know the rules, you can scoop up a ton of easy points that other people just miss. So let's learn how to play this game and win. Here's our game plan. We're going to turn these rules into a real strategy. First, we're going to build your punctuation toolkit, and then we'll learn how to use those tools to spot the traps the ACT sets and create a solid plan you can use on any question they throw at you. Think of it like this. Every good builder needs a toolkit, right? Well, for the ACT, your punctuation toolkit has 4 essential tools: the comma, the colon, the semicolon, and the dash. Let's start with the one you see all the time, the comma. The comma is your multi-tool. It does a bunch of jobs, right? It separates items in a list, it sets off those little introductory phrases at the beginning of sentences, and it joins 2 complete sentences, but only when you use one of those fanboys conjunctions. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so. But here's the real secret, and you've got to listen to this. The ACT is way more interested in when you shouldn't use a comma. And the #1 absolute biggest rule to remember is this: never, ever use a comma by itself to connect 2 complete sentences. That's a comma splice, and it's probably the most common trap on the entire test. All right, next up, the colon. I want you to think of this one like a big, bright spotlight. It basically screams, hey, pay attention to what comes next. It could be a list, an example, or a quick explanation. But here's the golden rule, the one thing you can't forget. Whatever comes before that colon has to be a complete sentence all on its own. And now for the semicolon. This one's got 2 main jobs. First, it acts like a strong period connecting 2 complete sentences that are really closely related in meaning. And second, it can be a super comma, which you use in those really complex lists where the items in the list already have their own commas. And last but not least, the dash. This is your drama tool. It's for adding emphasis or creating a sudden interruption in a sentence. Yeah, it can sometimes act like a comma or a colon, but the dash does it with way more punch, a much more conversational feel. Okay, let's zoom in on one tiny but super powerful mark, the apostrophe. On the ACT, this thing is almost always about one thing and one thing only, showing who owns what. It's a huge source of trick questions, but honestly, the rules are way simpler than you probably think. It really just boils down to this. If you have a single noun, you add an apostrophe S. Simple, like the student's paper. If you have a plural noun that already ends in S, the apostrophe just hangs out on the outside, like the student's papers. And for those weird, irregular plurals like children, you just treat it like it's singular. The children's toys. See? Not so bad. Okay, get ready, because this is a classic ACT trick. Joint versus separate ownership. If Jack and Jill are working together on one project, only the last name, Jill, gets the apostrophe, Jack and Jill's project. But if they each have their own separate projects, they each get their own apostrophe, Jack's and Jill's projects. Watch out for that one. Okay, you've got the tools. Now, it's time to start thinking like the people who actually make the test. We're going to shift gears from just knowing the rules to actively spotting how the ACT is going to try and trip you up. This, right here, is where knowledge becomes power. So these are their go-to moves, their favorite traps. They'll test if you can spot a complete thought, an independent clause, so you don't fall for a comma splice. They'll hide extra info in a sentence that needs to be blocked off with commas. They'll use tricky adjectives. Here's a quick test for that. If you can stick the word "and" between them and it still sounds right, you need a comma. And of course, they'll build those crazy lists to see if you know when to bust out the semicolon. Spotting these patterns is half the battle, I promise. So let's tie all of this together into one bulletproof strategy. This isn't about wild guessing. It's a repeatable process, a checklist you can run through for every single punctuation question to systematically find the right answer. Here it is, your 6-step game plan. Number 1, always read the whole sentence for structure first. 2, look for extra, non-essential info you can mentally cross out. 3, do that "and" test for adjectives. 4, figure out ownership. Is it joint or separate? 5, aggressively eliminate the answers you know are wrong. And always, always remember number 6, the most important rule of all.
The ACT wants the clearest, most correct answer, not the fanciest one. Follow this process every time.
All right, time for a super quick rapid-fire review. You ready? Commas separate, colons introduce, semicolons connect, dashes emphasize, apostrophes show ownership. And what's your main goal? Clarity, always clarity. Nail these and you are golden. So there you have it. You're not guessing anymore. You have the rules, you know the traps, and now you have a strategy. You are ready. The only question left is, how many points are you going to add to your score?